Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with the 5 greatest Prokofiev pianists. Now, Prokofiev's piano music is kind of a niche in the universe of piano playing, and it's one dominated by one major name, Sviatoslav Richter, who worked with the composer and whose recordings of the wartime sonatas particularly are just like unbelievably amazing. Some of the best things he ever did. But, it may be that Richter's influence has prevented the music from reaching quite as many pianists as perhaps it should, or prevented other pianists from specializing in that repertoire, because the comparison's always going to be made, and it's kind of easy and lazy, I think, to say, oh, well, he's not as good as Richter, or she's not as good as Richter, or it's not as good as Richter, or, whatever you want to say. And it's a shame. It's really a shame, because the music itself is greater than any single interpreter. And I think that this list is going to bear that out. So let's get to it, and then we can see where we are. A lot of pianists have done one work, like the 7th Sonata, like Argerich or Pollini or someone like that. It would be nice if they had the opportunity to do considerably more, because then we might be able to say other things about their Prokofiev. But these are wonderful artists, and I think it's a pretty powerful list. First, Sviatoslav Richter. Obviously, for all the reasons I just enunciated, his Prokofiev is amazing. And it's been acclaimed since like the dawn of time, and rightly so. But after that, Yefim Bronfman. Bronfman did all the concertos and all the sonatas, which is sort of Prokofiev's piano music in a nutshell. There are, of course, other pieces, but Bronfman is really a fine pianist. For some reason, he doesn't get the attention, I think, that he deserves. But when you consider he's done all the Bartoks marvelously, he's done all the Beethoven concertos fabulously with David Zinman. His Prokofiev concerti are wonderful. I mean, he doesn't put a foot wrong anywhere. The sonatas are just as good. Really some great stuff. Absolutely great stuff. But but he still doesn't get pushed to the forefront. He deserves to be. I really think so. His Prokofiev has a lot of the power and boldness of Richter's, and he brings his own, feeling for the music's ebb and flow and stuff, I mean, I'm not being very specific there because this is a general discussion, but yeah, I mean, his Prokofiev is really as good as anything out there. So Bronfman definitely deserves to be on the list. Next, Bernd Glemser. Now, Glemser has a very wide repertoire. He's recorded for Naxos and MDG and, a bunch of German labels. But his Prokofiev is pretty special. What I think is impressive about Glemser's Prokofiev is that he catches a lot of the music's lyricism, even in its spikier moments, without diminishing, its hard-hitting qualities. But he manages to, float an ostinato rhythm in, the 9th Sonata and things like that with a certain lightness and buoyancy. He's not heavy hitting in the way some of the Russian pianists are, but he certainly gets the music, and he has his own wonderful qualities. The 5th Sonata is particularly lovely. He did some terrific Prokofiev sonata recordings on Naxos, and they deserve, I think, some acclaim, and so he's on my list. Next, Vladimir Ashkenazy. I mean, Prokofiev has been one of the outstanding composers of Ashkenazy's career, both as a pianist and as a conductor. I mean, he recorded all the concertos. I think he did all the sonatas, or most of them, plus lots of other piano works, like all the transcriptions from the ballets and things like that. Ashkenazy, early in his career, made a recording of the 7th and 8th Sonata, which is stunning. It's coupled with the Mephisto Waltz, which is also amazing. Really some of the greatest pianism of his career. Amazing playing, fabulous interpretations. And they're recordings that helped to cement his reputation. And later, of course, he did more, lots more. But those young, fresh vibrant recordings of Prokofiev's 7th and 8th sonatas are going to endure. But so will much of his Prokofiev. I mean, he spent a tremendous amount of his time and attention on Prokofiev with great results. So Ashkenazy is definitely on my list. And last but not least, there's this one, which I had sitting here. I keep it like under my pillow because it's just so marvelous. Finnish pianist Matti Raekallio. He is a wonderful pianist. I mean, he's done other things, but not a lot. His discography isn't huge. Thank God he did these, because when this cycle came out, it's all the sonatas, plus, let's see what else you have. The 4 etudes, the toccata, sarcasms, the Tales of an Old Grandmother, Vision Fugitive, and Romeo and Juliet, 10 pieces for piano. It's 4 discs. They are wonderful. His Prokofiev is clean, clear, rhythmic, acerbic where necessary, lyrical where it has to be. Ondine has recorded him with very, very natural, clear sonics. It's just stupendous Prokofiev playing. And, people heard this and went, whoa, boy, that's the real deal. And at that point, nobody knew who he was. Most people still don't know who he was. And Ondine was a small Finnish label. It was a big surprise to have this come out and be absolutely superb. So Raekallio really, really deserves the palm in some respects, because he just, I don't know, he identifies with the music in a really profound way, but he's a very, very fine artist. So he's also a pianist worth following to the extent that you can. So that is my list of the 5 greatest Prokofiev pianists. I do look forward to yours. And I would only caution you, as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, people who've done just 1 sonata or 2 sonatas, they don't qualify. There's got to be a body of work to identify a performer with a particular composer. You can't just say, oh, this is the greatest recording of the 3rd sonata ever, therefore they're a great Prokofiev sonata pianist. No, it means they gave a great performance of a work. But I'm shooting for artists who've really identified with the composer. And so keep that in mind when you're coming up with your lists as well. And I look forward to seeing them. By the way, I want to thank all of you who participate in this series, because we are amassing just a fabulous, I think, library of recommendations for people who are interested in this music and are interested in these composers, the ones we're talking about, and in the artists we're talking about. It's really, really a library of where, the music is at this point in history. And I think it's really helpful. And you've made very, very thoughtful and smart suggestions, and I appreciate them all. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks for joining me. Take care.